What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you see this location, we are in the same area we were on the last video. I got something really special for you guys. We are actually going to be doing some cave spearfishing, like cave diving spearfishing. It's the kind of crazy stuff that's going to make you like cringe and be like, oh my god, I can't keep holding my breath. But I'm gonna actually have the timers, have the depth, and let you guys hold your breath with me on these dives. Awesome crew, got a mixed bag of people, and we're just sending it to these beautiful locations. Oh, we got our boy Joey here. We got our boy Joey bringing up some of the aftermath. Let's see it. Let's see it. There's some of the aftermath. I don't know. Does anybody know what that is? Comment below. Comment below if you know what that skin is. But look at this. Look at this mess we got. Hit him with it, Joey. Oh, I missed. There it is. We got it. We got it. So this is our guy, Joey. He was putting us on the spots today. He, local guy, running the boat, pulling fish on and off the spears. Well, not on, but pulling them off the spears. But yeah, he's been a legend. Thanks, brother. But not much more to say than me to just roll on the footage, and you guys enjoy. Comment below as you're watching. I am stoked to take you on this adventure. I'll see you guys out there on the water. Okay. Welcome back to the voiceovers, guys, and welcome underwater. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and give this video that thumbs up so it helps push it around and I can keep bringing you guys more of these. Now this water is just crystal clear. In a minute after this dive, or after a couple of dives, I'll actually go ahead and give you a run through of the gear that I'm using. But I just wanted to quickly get in the water and show you guys, even though it just looks like a little patch of reef, the amount of hiding spots fish can hide in is unreal. So one thing I always make sure I bring with me if I'm diving zones like this is a dive light, because spotting these fish so much easier. And when you dive and you see those little bait fish cruising in the reef like you just saw off to the left, that is a very good sign. That means there's a good cave nearby. It proves this theory perfectly true. Now, even though I could look in this hole and I could kind of take a quick glance and see that there was nothing in there, you see as I'm going through, there's so many turns and corners that these fish just camp out at it. Once the boat rolls up, they basically head into these holes. One thing you have to be conscious of is when you're using this 9-foot pole spear, you do have to maneuver it in and out when you're going and diving these caves, and this is absolutely nothing compared to the structure we see in a couple more dives. Now, like I said, I wanted to give you a taste, and that previous dive was very mild to the stuff that we're going to be seeing here in a minute. We head to an area, didn't really see a whole lot of fish on the shallow stuff. Once that happened, we're like, okay, there's no fish in the shallows, we need to go a little bit deeper. So this area I went to, it was just blind finding, just looking for structure and watching the sounder, looking at Google Earth, and I found this little patch. Once we got to it, I was like, wow, this pinnacle kind of comes up pretty deep, and it's 65 to the opening of this cave. Now this almost looks like I'm diving some kind of freshwater spring cave. How deep this thing goes is mind-blowing to me, and I'm just keep on going, and I actually go to 77 feet into it, so it's almost 10 feet deeper, and you can see that was the entrance up there, and I'm just hoping to see a cubera or something, but really I didn't see anything on this dive minus that one little tiger grouper along with some lionfish. And I absolutely ditched my spear. There's no way I'm gonna be going in that cave, because if I dropped it or if I have to ditch it, it's going down and down deep. I was shocked that there was no fish on this spot. Like I think a dog snapper came in later. The next spot I go on,
does have a ton of fish, and that's what you have to do. If there's nothing here, you just have to peck around and find one spot, and then if there's nothing, make another spot. I probably only made like 2 or 3 dives on this spot, and everybody else made a couple too, so we gave it a good scout out.
Alright, nothing. Move to the next one. Alright, so basically all the gear I got a standard glove with a wrist strap, got my dive watch, rocking just a standard mask with a GoPro, and standard Moana fins. And then I also have my belt reel, Rob Allen belt reel, got a knife, got my throw flasher, got a little carabiner to hold onto it, drilled a hole through it, so in case I need to, on a whim, throw it for a mackerel. And then also, I got this Nomad pole spear, rocking the slip tip, making it super easy to get on some fish. And then I just strap the band to my belt reel, and it just pulls out line as needed. Just showing Joey here the ins and outs, geared up. All right, but let's get underwater. Let's see what we can get.
Now that I saw that these pinnacle structures are really safe havens for insane caves, that was on the radar from now on. So we would check a spot, hop in, take a look. If it wasn't good, we'd just do this over and over again until we found a good spot. And this pinnacle was beautiful, and once I went over to the top of it, I saw this nice yellowfin kind of patrolling the top of it. Yellowfin are definitely a little more on the easier side than black grouper. They're a little less skittish. This guy just went into this hole. I knew there was probably, it was kind of a smaller hole, but I knew there was a one way, one out, one way in, one way out. I saw the fish in there with that dive light. Wouldn't have been possible without it. Landed a good shot, what I thought, and the thing just tore out. Once he tore out, I was waiting for him to shoot out the hole to another side, but he didn't. So that showed me, okay, this fish is in here, he's wounded, he's not going to go anywhere, and I need to do a little breathe up, make another drop, and try to secure this fish because I don't want to leave a wounded fish behind.
I'll get him. He's in there injured. Yeah. I don't know how I did it. I don't know how it ripped out. There's a lot of shit on it.
A lot of people ask me what I do for breathe up techniques and all that stuff. Honestly, I just dive a lot. And when I dive, I actually have never blacked out, mainly because I don't push myself. I always try to dive with a dive watch, and with that, I always at least double my dive. So if I made a 1 minute dive, I'm at least on the surface for 2 minutes, and I don't go any under that, or I just go a lot more, just to make sure I have a good amount of oxygen in my system. Like I said, I've never blacked out. I don't push it, I don't overdo it. I think that's key to making sure you're diving safe and responsibly. Now I make it down to this hole, and the hole I'm checking is actually a different hole than I shot him at. It was a much bigger hole, so I assumed he would be in there or ready to come out. This is actually the original hole I saw him at, and if you listen to this, the divers were up there yelling and screaming. I didn't actually see the fish leave the other hole, so me going in that other hole pushed him out the big hole I checked originally. Without that buddy diving, this fish would have never been able to find it and get this second shot up on him. Now with that backup shot, I made sure I really had a good headshot on this fish. Ended up spining him or stoning him, I'm not quite sure, but made it up to the surface. Again, without that buddy diving, this would 100% not have been possible.
Who was that who yelled? Nice job, thank you. I like heard you, and I'm like, looked around, and yeah, he snuck out of the hole. He's not as big as I thought. Yeah, that was awesome. Whew. Hey, good job. Thank you. I literally wouldn't have seen him. No. Yeah, once you made the, I was like, oh, he must have jumped the hole. That's what I should have done the first time. Shoot him right in the head.
like before, doing the same exact thing, bouncing around, checking spot to spot. And this is my first jump in to kind of scout out this area. I swam a little bit towards some darker structure. This is what I found. There was a giant dog snapper down cruising the cave to the left. It really looks just like that first deep cave that I came across originally, but the only difference is there was a lot of life teeming at the surface above it, just like these little bluefish right in my peripherals everywhere. Make a dive on this dog snapper. I know he's not going to go far because this is his home, this is his cave. I was hoping he would do that same pattern and I get myself in the right position, because that's what they do. They go in and out and they do like this little pattern when they swim around these caves, and I was waiting for him to do the same pattern, but he didn't, of course. But he did scare out something. There was a chub there, but then there was a cubera right there. It was a smaller, perfect size cubera. He darted out, so I know that things kind of got a little stirred up in this spot, but I'm definitely going to make a dive real soon. Now that all the divers were around us, I was sitting there breathing up at the surface, and of course that dog snapper kind of peeked his head out of this cave. I had some unfinished business. I decided to try a different tactic. Instead of waiting, I just dive bombed him, and right before he went back in the cave, I got a really good headshot. And it was funny, a thing, right before this dive, Victoria actually went after a Spearo mackerel, accidentally dropped her dive knife, and I knew exactly where it was. I didn't want to really take my eyes off of it, so while I was down there I had plenty of breath. I just did a long breathe up, so instead of me going up and down again, I decided to swim over with the fish and grab the knife, and it actually worked out because all that commotion in the water brought in a lot of fish. So do not go anywhere. You're about to see some more awesome diving.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Now, like all fish, definitely brain, bleed, gut, and that's what I end up doing on this guy, especially snappers. Snappers tend to have a little bit more of a bloodline, especially snappers like cuberas, dog snappers, mangroves. So always bleed, brain, gut your fish. Here's a quick little dive where you see that throw flasher coming in real handy. A Spearo mackerel came cruising through. There's no point in chasing them because usually they'll deter. So I tossed the throw flasher, came right into it, blooded, but I made a horrible shot. I had to go retrieve the flasher, and in the meantime, Jesse makes a perfect shot on this Spearo, and now we have some fresh sashimi to bring home. And stoked we were able to get this fish.
Good job, dude.
You guys get ready to hold your breath on this one. This is a long dive. I'm going to do a lot of explaining on this one. And right there when I dive, that big pinnacle was right in the middle of the screen, right there. There were some cuberas and some grouper kind of patrolling the edges of this pinnacle, and it's a lot deeper than the top of the pinnacle, you'll see as I get down. But a trick that we did was the owner of the boat had frozen lobster heads in his deep freezer. We were using them as kind of sort of like a throw flasher. We would throw them and they would sink down. One of the cuberas actually grabbed the lobster head and started swimming away with it. Advantage of when you drop it, the bait fish and the triggerfish and chubs and everything start pecking at it, and it creates a frenzy in the water. You'll see on my upcoming videos this in full effect. But I decided to go down, grab the antennas, and start, working the antennas to kind of use it as a lobster call. I'm really hoping that a cubera would come in, and I was prepared to make a long dive, but unfortunately the cubera did not come in, and there was a big yellowfin off in that little trench. I start heading his direction right there, and I end up following this guy. And he finally gives me a shot right here. And I shot a little low, but the whole reason I was shooting low with this pole spear was because my bands weren't the proper length. I ended up finally getting my fully redone before my next trip, so I don't have any mishaps like this one. Now, I was a little bummed about that tear out, but I kept my eyes on the fish. I saw exactly where he went. That's a good thing that can happen. It could lead you to another cave so you can get more familiarized with the area, and that's exactly what happens on this drop. I go down, he kind of went along this sand edge, and he shot up into this structure right here. Now, I wasn't exactly sure where he was, but I saw that grouper nose sticking out. I'm not sure if it was the same fish, but I was going to try to really take my time, make a really good shot, and the fish bolted immediately. But I really loaded up in my spear, have the dive light again. That thing is key when you're diving this cave stuff. And I look in here, and there are multiple grouper. And there's a cubera staring right at me. Again, the spear was not properly tensioned, so obviously I didn't have enough torque to get through a cubera skull. Let alone even if it was fully tensioned perfectly, it would have been really tough to get through a cubera skull anyways. That fish will be okay, just a little flesh wound on the face. Make another drop on this in a minute, and you can see what kind of cave structure we're working with here.
It was an awesome cave. There were three yellowfin. I don't know which one it was. And then there was a cubera staring at me, and I took a shot at it, but it was head on, so it wasn't like the best shot. Yeah. What is it, a grouper? Or who is it? All right, I have one rocked up right here too. I'm gonna try to.
To be completely honest, I at this point was exhausted. Making these deep, longer dives really takes a lot out of you. I only have a few of them in me for the day, so making these extra long dives, and especially if I get something rocked up in a cave where I have to make multiple dives, and being one of the deeper divers on the trip is very tough. But I go ahead and head down. I see a tiger grouper at the top of the, I think that's a tiger grouper. That might be a yellowfin. I'm not sure, but either way, I know that there's a lot of fish around this cave. I head in here, dive light, ready to rock and roll, and I gave it a little time for the soot to kind of die down. There was a smaller yellowfin to the right. I was trying to really hope to find that one I wounded earlier, because I don't like leaving wounded fish. But you can see that cave. It doesn't look like much from the surface, but it just can hold an insane amount of life. And while we were looking in this cave, a giant cubera came over, went into it, and then came out of it, which goes to show really you can have fish of all different sizes in these even smaller caves. But I was pretty exhausted from doing a bunch of diving like this, but we ended up heading to the surface. Jesse shot a big Nassau on the other spot we were diving and needed a little bit of help extracting it. This spot obviously looks a little familiar because everybody was really diving this same zone, and I kind of went off to the edge with Victoria. We were kind of just diving the edges there just because we didn't want to be diving alone, so it was a good idea to make sure we all stick together, at least in a couple of different groups. But Jesse shot this fish, kind of told me it was wrapped up in a funky way. When you go down and are assessing these situations, the best thing to do is to not like freak out. I'm trying to analyzing, I'm seeing where the fish is coming from, where the pole spear is, try to figure out a route, and that's what I do right there. I just start working the fish and pushing him back, which is really hard to do, so you can't force it. You just have to gently slide the fish back, and I did it just enough to where I can get his face facing the direction where the spear is. And now once I do that, it's easier to pull the fish. Otherwise, you're not going to pull against his spines and his fins. That's one thing that's not going to happen. You're going to tear out your spear before you get that fish out. But I wanted to make sure I got his nose facing out the way the slip tip and the cable was going in. You saw that perfectly. I was able to just slide the fish out the way he went in, but usually what they do is they face the opposite way and they get hung up with their dorsal fins and their pectoral fins.
Yeah, you're good.
We honestly could have dove that spot over and over again, but we didn't want to keep hammering one single spot. We have that on the radar now, so we know that's a really good spot that we can go back to time and time again, and it will hold quality fish, and we wanted to find more spots like that. So we went to roughly the same depth, maybe a little bit shallower, that just fish weren't around. It really just depended on the spot we were at. And it's crazy because the amount of structure, maybe it was just too vast and it was too much structure in such a large area that the fish, it's really a crapshoot, and you really just have to be lucky. These little coral heads in the middle of nowhere are just teeming with caves and little bait fish, but there's just no quality predator fish on them. I don't know if it had to do with water temperature. Yeah, I just don't really know what the deal was with that and why there weren't more fish on spots just like this one.
It was pretty. There's a lot more fish here.
Since we weren't really seeing a whole lot, we decided to go to a little bit of a shallower area, and I make a drop to the edge of this reef. Again, we're not seeing a lot, so I just want to make kind of a blind drop here, maybe do a little grunting, a little sanding, hoping to bring in a mutton. We haven't really seen a lot of muttons so far this trip. Maybe give it a shot here. Something does come in. It's not a mutton, but like I said, it's a little shallower of an area than we've been diving. But I do a lot of grunting, a lot of sanding, keeping my eyes peeled for muttons, and I'm not seeing anything. I see some porgies off in the distance, but while I'm down there doing grunting, something actually comes in above me. Again, the buddy diving comes in clutch. So if you guys are out there, stick together. You will guarantee land more fish than if you're by yourself, and it's safer not only for blackouts but also for sharks. Also, you get the perks of what's about to happen here. Look up, and there's Jesse landing probably the biggest Spearo of the trip. I had no idea this fish was coming in. I probably would have never seen it. Jesse told me that this fish was coming right over top of me and swimming around on top of me, and he was coming into all the grunting and the commotion down deeper.
Nice. Nice, dude.
Last dive of the day, and you guys, it is a freaking good one. Jesse made a drop, looked, kind of peeked in this cave, and said, dude, there's a huge permit in this cave. But he didn't want to shoot it because he didn't want to wreck his pole spear. So I was like, dude, I'm up. I'm so game for this. So I went down to this cave. I really wanted to put it to the test. I've never shot a permit in a cave like this. So you see me going down. There was a nice dog snapper there, and this permit was just sitting there. I have no idea what it was doing, but I was trying to get it to turn. I had no shot on this fish. I had no idea if he knew I was there, but I started shaking my light at him. I started grunting. Finally, he turned a little bit, and I just grabbed the rope, or grabbed my band, and this guy just pulled me right out of the cave. But what's crazy is when he came out, he went to turn back into the cave and lodged my spear. You can see it bending down there in the corner, and that goes to show how tough these nomad pole spears are. And even after this, Jesse kept asking me, hey man, is your pole spear all right? And I kept checking it. I'm like, dude, it's fine. They're meant to do that. So I put the juice on this guy, brought him on up to the surface, and I was stoked to get this fish. It was a crazy cool dive.
I sat there behind him forever. I shot him and he literally pulled me out of the cave. That was awesome.
Aren't you guys? If you enjoyed that, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. I post videos like this every week. Always doing voiceovers so you guys know what's going on through my head underwater. But yeah, comment below if you have any comments or questions about anything, guys, and I will see you next week for another adventure. Later.